LBC reporting big news from the Education Secretary today as she turns up and says that boys should be able to wear dresses at school because apparently this is something really important we should all be talking about. Yeah, Lee Anderson shared that and just said, what are we talking about this for? And Lee is quite right. What really, really irritates me about this is I genuinely don't think these people realise quite how many people genuinely despise them. The rage and hatred that people have for British politicians in 2026 is unlike anything I've ever seen in my lifetime. It's quite bizarre how it's got this bad in a mere 40 years. But here we are. The reason I bring this up is because, yeah, that's what the Education Secretary and our ministers are busy talking about today. And they don't want to talk about this story that was in The Guardian. The Nottingham killer was not sectioned because of his race, inquiry told. Valdo Callaghan was released in 2020 after mental health staff considered research on over-representation of young black men in detention. Unbelievable. Staggering, isn't it? I mean, we've known about this for 30 years. It's a thing across the West. It's a thing in the United States. They'll try and lionize people like George Floyd when he's a career criminal, and they'll try and demonize Derek Chauvin when what happened was obviously in line with his training, and at worst, it could have been done for some sort of dereliction of duty and got about, 18 months for it. It's obvious that it happens all across the Western world, but nowhere is it more starkly obvious and disgraceful than in the United Kingdom. You know this, I know this. People like me, and I'm sure yourself, have talked about this for at least a decade. The swinging back of the pendulum was ludicrous with regards to race and the criminal justice system. And now, as you're all well aware, on top of the fact that hundreds of thousands of children were abused while the government and the police and the judges and the lawyers and the activists all enabled that behaviour and turned a blind eye to it, on top of that, we have this, which is that apparently people that are completely off their tits aren't detained if they happen to have a bit of a tan, which means they go out, as Mr. Callaghan did, and end the lives of young girls minding their own business. I will say one thing, though. They're always calling him crazy and saying he was mental. Oh, he's definitely crazy. What I do notice about them all is, though, they're never crazy enough to stick the knife into a 6'3" black man, though, are they? Weird, that. Right, we'll not hang around. I'm sick of looking at this mentally ill career parasite tourist. So let's get on with it. This really is a damning indictment of the state of affairs in the UK. Mental health professionals decided not to detain the Nottingham triple murderer, Valdo Callaghan, despite a violent incident in 2020 after they considered research that addressed the over-representation of black men in custody. A public inquiry has been told. Callaghan, who was a paranoid schizo, yes, I'm glad we bring those people in, fatally stabbed 19-year-old students Barnaby Webber and Grace O'Malley Kumar and 65-year-old Ian Coates, severely injured 3 others on the 13th of June 2023. He was sentenced to an indefinite hospital order after admitting 3 counts of manslaughter and 3 counts of attempted murder. It only gets worse from there. During the first day of the hearing, counsel the inquiry, Rachel Langdale, said Callaghan was arrested on the 24th of May 2020 after repeatedly kicking and punching a door in his student accommodation. A neighbour had to restrain him before officers arrived. So yes, he was a violent man, a big, hairy-arsed, violent foreign man, and the British government kept letting him out. Callaghan later had a mental health assessment where he described hearing voices. Yeah, why would you want to detain a hairy-arsed African who hears voices in his brain? Why would you want to do that? He sounds like a splendid addition to our island story, doesn't he? Nice one. Langdale said a doctor involved in the assessment had been leaning towards sectioning Callaghan. I'd have wrapped him in 40-footer chains and threw him off the pier. Due to it being his first presentation of psychosis, however, a team of mental health professionals considered research evidence that examined the over-representation of young black men in detention, and therefore we can't have that, can we? Doesn't matter if they're doing all the violent crime, we can't have that. It was then concluded that the crisis team could provide a safe and reasonable alternative, Safe and reasonable for who? The people that work in the hospital. They're the ones paid to deal with these gibbering imbeciles, not 19-year-old kids enjoying a night out in Nottingham. Shortly after Callaghan was released, he repeatedly kicked open another neighbour's door, which left her so frightened she jumped out of a first-floor window, seriously damaging her spine. Then he got sectioned for 3 weeks. This was the first of only 4 admissions to hospital before the attacks in Nottingham. Right, so we can stop there. I'll get bored reading the laundry list of incidents that horrible murdering twat was involved in. It's staggering. The list it's longer than E.T.'s phone bill. There's no need for me to read you any more of this drivel, is there? All I want to do is sum up by pointing at another individual that did a similar type of thing. Because you guessed it, there's a pattern here. Yes, there is. You may recall that The Guardian and the British government ran a massive campaign of lies and brazen fictions about the unassuming Welsh schoolboy, Axel Rudu Kanubu. But we all know that the same sort of thing happened here, didn't it? In October 2019, the 13-year-old called the NSPCC and said, "What should I do if I want to kill someone?" Within days of that call, he was permanently expelled from his high school after attacking someone with a hockey stick and breaking the wrist. He then bounced from one pupil referral unit to another, with a constant obsession with violence growing all the time. He took a knife to school and in an admission interview said he wanted to use it. After breaking the aforementioned child's bones, the head teacher said he had no sense of the wrongness of his actions. He was on multiple occasions found to be carrying a knife in his backpack. He was arrested and pled guilty to assault. All his classmates knew for months about his fascination with gruesome videos and murder. The kid was an absolute psycho, and during an IT class, a teacher looked over his shoulder to see a web page about a bloodbath at a US high school. He was reported to prevent multiple times, interviewed by counter-terrorism officers, was referred to a children's hospital's mental health department, downloaded an AQ training manual 3 times, made rice in, and then after he'd done all that, he was again referred to Prevent after posting mental shit about Colonel Gaddafi. Then he was back on Prevent's radar again because he was buzzing off the London Bridge attack. Then the coppers went to his house 4 times. Then again he was stopped by the coppers with a knife. And again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And instead of arresting him after, which one was this? He had violent videos and told coppers he wanted to stab someone. But again, instead of arresting him, which would have been his second arrest, they just took him home and told his mum she had to tell him off. Honestly, I'll put the whole story in the links. Read it. There was like 30 occasions where that mental case should have been locked up. But you know why he didn't get locked up? Well, we all know the answer to that, don't we? It's because just like this fella fell asleep on the tanning tubes. That's why it all got brushed under the rug. So, to sum up, I hope I've coaxed a bit of blood into your rage boner. To sum up, these people and thousands like them, I almost said hundreds, but let's be real. The diddler gangs, thousands, nay, hundreds of thousands like them have been victimised because the British government thinks foreign men are much more important than the lives of your wives and children. That's it. That's it. That's not hyperbolic, is it? That's exactly what's happening. Those 2 stories prove it. You can read them at your leisure in the links down below. All right? If you're not pissed off, you should be. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Total pip. Cheers.